Hello great people, welcome to another great interesting episode of Focus on Health. Today you may be asking why we are outdoors shooting Focus on Health. It's because we're talking about an ambulance, and of course an ambulance is used for providing emergency services to those who need it. And today we are being joined by Dr. Beryl Omanya from Bliss Healthcare Limited to just give us a little bit perspective on what it is all about. Thank you very much, Dr. for joining us.
Karibu.
Yeah. So Dr. what is the role of an ambulance in the day-to-day activities in a hospital?
Okay, the ambulance has a major role in saving lives. First of all, it can be used to transport a patient from one point to another, or at a given time you can be using it to transport blood from other point, or medicine in case of emergencies cares as well.
So what is the centrality of any institution having an ambulance to make sure that they may be transporting their patient and of course the blood that you've talked about? What is the centrality of all it? What is really the importance of these all?
In every medical facility, they have to be always ready to offer services in case of emergency, despite the location where the person or the patient is found in. So in our place, in case we've called our patient who needs urgent medical care, and we have to go there and find a way to bring the patient to offer our services in the facility. And again, ambulance is equipped by the paramedics that are capable to be in the location and let us know about the urgency, for enable us to prepare for what awaits, or to offer the first aid at the ground as well.
Sure. Would you please walk me through when you get a call? Of course, you get calls for requesting for ambulance service, right? So would you walk me through, if somebody makes a call, what is it that you or the people who are responsible do until the ambulance is dispatched?
So depending on the location, or whenever somebody is located, when you give a call to you need an emergency call. Let's say, for example, there's an accident or somebody who's suffering from a heart attack somewhere. We'll ask more details about how is the patient, or what is the patient feeling, and we'll ask more about the other, to get more information about the diseases or the drugs that the patient could have been taking before. Meanwhile, at the same time, we'll send our ambulance there to see with the paramedics. They'll be on the ground to check on the place and then to see what's happening on the ground. From then, they'll decide if the patient can be taken care of at the point of the accident, or when if the patient has to be taken to a specialized medical facility. So every time you get a call, you get the right. We dispatch the right personnel, or dispatch to the right hospitals, where the ambulance will enable us to know which hospital that is best for you.
So when we talk about all this, so I would also love to know simply more about the team that is inside an ambulance.
So in all ambulance, we have the paramedics. There can be a nurse or somebody who is equipped, who is taught, who is known about the first aid, who can provide any CLS or a TLS provider. And you have an ambulance driver as well, who also has a little bit of knowledge about the first aid. So they're capable of assessing what is on the ground and dispatching the patient to the right facility, and to enable us to be ready to save the life faster and to cut short the time that is required.
And when you talk about the paramedic, does the paramedic have to be a medic in itself? Like, does he have to have studied maybe clinical medicine, or even be a medical officer in itself?
Not really. Don't have to be a medical officer. A paramedic can be somebody who's gone through at times you can have nurses as well, and you have people who've just gone through the health formation, and you train them on the emergency health care. Mostly doctors are not found in the ambulance in most cases. Neither clinical officers. They're always at the hospital waiting for the patients to take care of them.
So I would love you to of course give us a little bit idea on what exactly is inside the ambulance, especially so that maybe when somebody is accessing it, then they should know that I'm supposed to get A, B, C, and D. What are some of the things that can be able to be performed inside an ambulance, like stabilization, or as the patient is being moved from point A to point B?
Yeah. First of all, in ambulance, we have stretchers.
Yes.
We have the first aid kit. Those can just be known in case of a slight cut or something to stop the bleeding as well. We have cardiac monitors to see how the cardiac is moving in case the patient having a cardiac problem. Also, we have general. Let's say we have cardiac monitor, the pacemakers, all things that you require, the fluids that in case a patient is dehydrated, and the whole first aid kits with the dressings and everything, and other medicines for emergencies that can save lives. That you can. There are some patients that have to give an urgent medication that save lives, like in case of a cardiac arrest.
Okay.
You give it urgently. So.
When you talk about all these, what is really coming out is the urgency, because that's why the ambulance is also brought in. So how fast should or the expected time of arrival from the scene to the hospital, how long is this supposed to be happening?
Normally, we all hope for it to be faster, but it has other factors that determines it. Normally, we can depend on the street network. Maybe they say there's a lot of traffic jam or somewhere, or we can depending as well with the Google map, we can look at the location of the patient as well, and with the siren as well. It helps us now to be faster. With the siren, it helps to be faster, but we cannot really judge like we expect. Depending on the location of the patient, we can't really judge the patient to be there in this time and to be there on the exact dot, because there are multiple factors that do affect it. Yeah.
And so what are some of the strategies that maybe the ambulance in itself has put to make sure that time of arrival is of essence? I know of the
siren.
The siren, yeah. And of course, when you're looking for ambulance drivers, are you looking for people who maybe are very fast, people who know the shortcuts, or exactly?
I think knowing a shortcut should be one of an added advantage. And again, it should be the driver should be well equipped with the Google map, at least to know the location of the person, or get to know the shortcut or the panya route somewhere to get through it faster. And the driver should be well equipped in emergency driving, because you have to know how to bypass different cars as well.
And we will be talking to the driver later on to maybe just get his own experience of being of driving an ambulance. But something also that is maybe I would love to know about is when you get a call, then how do you save that this is an emergency and this is not an emergency? Because of course there are people who are just there to make calls about things which are not really even emergency. So how do you determine that is the one, whether this is an emergency or this is not an emergency?
That's why we have the paramedics in the ambulance. So when they get to the place, they have to first of all get the vitals of the patient, try to know, and they are there to assess. And in case something that requires, they're actually trained in emergency medicine. If it's something that is very urgent, then we'll be ready and the patient will be transported to the right facility. So they are actually able to tell us, to confirm, because you can be saying on a phone, but maybe that person is not medically equipped. So when we send a paramedic there who assesses the ground and tells us we are expecting this, so all of the facility or the hospital should be ready to accept to receive the patient when the patient arrives.
And also something else is coming up about communication, the importance of communication during such emergencies. Would you tell us how central this is in making sure that the patient, who is the main beneficiary of all these, arrives and of course is treated well at the end of it, at the end of the day? The communication plays a fundamental role, because in case of any accident, let's say there is an accident in the case of the road, or just somebody who's having an attack at home, or somebody who's having just like a faint or like a coma at home. So we have to get to know the history about the patient, to get to know history about the medication that the patient is taking, or if he's under specific treatment that you're not aware of, or if there is a fracture or something, or it's the accident is extreme or there's a burn, so we're able to know which equipment should we add into our ambulance to go and bring the patient, or to give the first aid at the ground that is adequate to save that life. Because the fastest we act is the better we'll save the, let's say, the better we'll save the life. So I'll love us to take a very short commercial break, but when we come, we're going to continue the discussion with Dr. Beryl to just tell us about how central these this ambulance in itself should be for each and every medical facility. And I'll leave you with the Did You Know section.